morning, everyone, and welcome to another Triangular Talk session. My name is Shreya Kalyan, and I'm the CEO of Gore Math Circle. Triangular Talks is a forum for students to interact with and hear directly from industry executives across various companies and organizations about how they use STEM concepts and problem-solving skills in their day-to-day work lives. Triangular Talks will be a series of 1-hour online Zoom sessions consisting of 3 parts: the beginning, an introduction, a presentation, and a Q&A session. These talks will revolve around one central idea, the triangular method for solving problems. This method begins with the problem. From that, one gets innovation, which one will finally use to solve the problem. To help students connect the dots between classes and real life, speakers will be asked what they do every day and how they apply their knowledge of STEM and problem solving. This will introduce students to different industries and motivate them to nurture their problem solving and skills and not give up. The most common questions asked by students in any math class are, why are we learning this? Or when will we ever use this? This program will answer these questions and encourage students to take the initiative to learn and do more. Today, we are joined by Dr. Niedre Heckman, a TEDx speaker, freelance medical writer, and so much more. She holds a BS and MS in chemistry, an MPH and PhD in public health, and several certifications in regulatory affairs and quality. She's also a regulatory and quality professional with a history of inspiring teams by bringing life-sustaining treatments to people. At Takeda, Niedre specializes in medical product development that includes medical devices in combination with enzymes, antibodies, blood factors, and gene therapy to fulfill unmet medical needs. She uses manufacturing science and engineering concepts in combination with public health principles to help create therapies that address individuals' disease states physiologically while also attending to the psychological need for optimal well-being and quality of life. In 2012 and 2015, the Food and Drug Administration recognized Niedre with a written commendation for an exemplary regulatory filing and the Leveraging Collaboration Award for demonstrating leadership in improving regulated products. Wow, that was a lot. Dr. Heckman holds an impressive resume filled with so many things. It's amazing to see someone this versatile, and I'm honestly inspired with all the work she's done. I hope you all feel the same after her presentation. Now, Dr. Heckman, thank you for joining us today, and the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you so much, Shreya. Thanks, everyone. It's great to be here. I will share my screen. I think I'm going to go ahead and go off camera while I'm presenting, but I'll come back on. Okay, let's see. Let's get my PowerPoint slide deck. All right. And I am sharing my screen, right? Let me make sure. Share screen. There we go. All right. All right, so that should work. And let's go to beginning. All right, so great to be here. My name is Niedre Heckman. Thank you for the introduction. I'll tell you a little bit about me. This is a slide we use at work to tell a story about ourselves outside of work and some other information. So you can see all these pictures. I love pictures. The person I am at work, and I try to be the same, outside of work as well, an ally and an advocate to really help my coworkers and also people in the community, family, friends, as much as I can. It's such a joy. I like to actually start working on Sunday night because you know how they say it's 5 o'clock somewhere? Well, it's actually Monday somewhere on Sunday night in California. So it's Monday morning in the countries of Asia Pacific. And then later on, it's going to be morning in Europe. And so since I have a global job, I end up talking with people all over the world. An exciting aspect of my STEM career. But outside of work, I'm a daughter, a sister, an auntie, a partner in crime. I have a younger sister, and she has her family, so I'm an auntie to them, and a stepmom to 3 wonderful children in Kentucky. I like to travel, write, read, and I like photography. Well, a random fact is I set up a scholarship for underserved students because I remember what it was like to be a student in college and wondering where am I going to get money to pay for the next, that time, quarter of school. So that's me, and you can see all these pictures of different places I've been or people that I'm surrounded by. And then this is a snapshot of my career. It's really spanned across medical devices, drug and biologics, and combination products. And so in this sphere, I've been able to work across regulatory affairs, which is taking submissions, making submissions to health authorities all over the world. And these submissions are dossiers or documents, a bunch of documents of different science and engineering type work. And also in quality. So it's the quality of making sure that these medical products meet the specifications that they should and are safe and effective, and clinical studies that they're conducted using a diversity of participants, and also an R&D to bring different test methods or different upscale of production and formulations into being. So this is just me in a nutshell. And now I want to ask about you. So here's the first poll. I want to know what you're good at. So can you please do me the great favor of answering this poll? It can be more than one. You're great at many things. So please go ahead and select all that apply. Oh, look at this. This is wonderful. And maybe what you can do is, if you want to in the chat, you can put what the other is. I'd love to read what the other is as well. Okay, so look at the diversity of interest here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. Oh, look, we still have, I think, people answering. Great. Anybody else? I see 27 of 37. Anybody else want to answer? Don't be shy. Okay, so we'll go ahead and end the poll. Thank you so much. Look at this feedback. Okay, so fail to share poll. Okay, stop sharing, I guess. Okay, so now our share results. There we go. Now I see how it works. Okay, so now I'm going to go to the next slide. And the reason for the poll is to say that, yes, the focus of your education and your interests are related to STEM. And that's wonderful. But those other areas and activities that you do and that you enjoy, don't lose those. Your skills and your hobbies and your talents, they make up your unique footprint that you can contribute to your STEM endeavors. So, embrace who you are all around, and then use that in your creative way of contributing to STEM. And I guess one quick example is, I don't know, the iPhone, right? It's this, very graceful, or smartphones in general, they're very graceful. The way they look is very also attractive, but they're so functional as well. They take a lot of programming and electronics and those kind of STEM areas to be able to make an iPhone, but it's also artistic and creative. So those areas go in. So embrace all of your talents and skills as you endeavor in your STEM life. Okay, next slide. Trying to go to the next slide. Okay, so today's presentation, I'm going to be talking about one particular disease state, and it's primary immune deficiency disorder. And I want to talk about the way the immune system works and what happens when it doesn't work. What is the impact of that? So that's the problem. The immune system doesn't work, and or as well as it should. And so what was innovated in order to care for that? And then what are the innovations like? What do they entail? And then when we innovated innovations, right, various products, are those actually successful at solving the problem that the innovation kind of creates or burden? So we'll go into more detail about all of that. Starting with the immune system. So we have the major organs of the immune system here shown on the left. And you can see thymus, liver, bone marrow, tonsils, lymph nodes, spleen, blood are all the contributing organs to the immune system. And then the cells of the immune system, here you can see all sorts of white blood cells, and you've got antibodies. And this presentation, I want to focus quite a bit on the antibodies, but you can see here's the inside the bones, the bone marrow contributes to all of this. And then also the thymus contributes to cells. So all of us have this in our body to, with a normal immune system, we have all these elements. When the immune system is deficient, some of these elements are missing, or they might be present, but they don't work so well. And in some cases, there's just no or not enough of these at all, these cells at all. And so the immune system protects from infection and keeps us well. So it's vital for life. And I got these images courtesy of the Immune Deficiency Foundation. So if you're interested more, go ahead and check out the link. So I wanted to focus on antibodies. We have several different types of antibodies: IgG, IgA, IgM, and so forth. So this is in general what they look like. This is IgM down here. It's got 5 of these spokes coming off of it. And then I wanted to show, well, how does this actually work? All these elements of the immune system. So here you see a neutrophil cell that the body makes. And then this purple oblong shape is called complement, floating in the plasma. And then here's the antibody. And then here's the bad guy or person, or not person, the bad microbe or virus, or yeah. So what happens is that the antibodies on their tips here recognize or attach to proteins on the surface of the bacteria or the virus or other agent. And so does the complement. These antibodies are also arising from the surface of this neutrophil. And then what happens is that they bring this foreign body inside, and then they engulf it. And so then it's no longer a threat floating around in the bloodstream, multiplying and causing the person to become very ill. So courtesy of the Immune Deficiency Foundation, I did get this video clip. I just want to show a little bit of it that shows what it looks like. So I'll do that. Hopefully it works. Oh, sorry about that. Skip ad. Okay. Okay, so now I want to go back to the presentation. Whoops. Oh. Kind of messed that up. Let's see. I'm not sure how to get back to my presentation. Okay, there we are. Okay, so the first problem is the immune system is deficient. And I thought this slide was great because I want to talk about normal in more ways than one. The first way is that we all have a range of, when we go to the laboratory and have our like a complete blood count and looking at the functionality, other tests that look at the functionality of the immune system as well, there's this normal distribution. So you've learned about that in school, the bell-shaped curve. Sometimes they use letter grades, A, B, C, D, and F, and okay, this peak here is usually at C, so that's the average. So normal distribution looks like this, and people who don't have, when they have an immune deficiency, this is quite shifted. And so it can cause a lot of issues. So what are those issues? Well, first of all, there are issues that are really can be called 450 or so, even more than that, different types of rare genetic disorders of the immune system. So the cells, the antibody, the complement, they're missing, they're defective, they're present in insufficient amounts. And so there's a lot of variety because you saw lots of elements of the immune system. And so what happens is that people who don't have, the full functioning immune system, they're susceptible to, yes, the common infections, but also really unusual infections that the immune system takes care of well before there's actually an issue. So a person never becomes sick because their immune system takes care of it right away. And when individuals with immunodeficiency do get these infections, they're more severe, they last longer, and they're more difficult to treat. So what are the effects? Well, it's really effects of all over. So the gastrointestinal tract, mucous membranes, respiratory system. There can be issues that happen in the brain, liver, lungs, development of autoimmune disease. These can happen with people and more with primary immune deficiency. So it's quite a burden. It's rare, yes. So a lot of times, even though it can be acquired, immune deficiency can be acquired, it's present already at birth. So it's 1 in 2,000 children, 1 in 1,200 individuals. And then we talk about households because, we have families and children are growing up, mostly in a family setting, right? So households are also involved in this, and the prevalence has been measured. So I want to ask another poll question because we're going to go into the innovation now that we've demonstrated that there's a real problem when the immune system is deficient. So can we ask that poll question? Where does human plasma come from? And hopefully you can type in from that poll where you think it comes from. Oh, I should add, it's really when human plasma is used for medications. Maybe that's a better way to present it. Where do you think that comes from?
I didn't get the poll.
You didn't? Okay.
No.
Well, since you're speaking, you want to take a guess?
Chat.
Oh, chat. Okay. Oh, yeah, I see. Let me open the chat. Okay. Microbiology, math, computer program. Oh, good at art. Oh, look at this. Okay, I'm looking in the chat. Oh, someone likes to write. I like to write also. Reading, robotics. Oh, I love reading, microbiology. Okay. This is wonderful. Oh, look, someone says human plasma comes from blood. Okay, excellent. So let me move on to the next slide. Okay, so innovation one, okay, right? So problem one is immune system is not functioning properly, and that can have very serious consequences. So innovation one, medications are purified from plasma that's donated by people. So, think about yourselves, you're generous, you're kind, you're compassionate, you have empathy, and you demonstrate these toward people, towards animals, towards your community, right? Um, towards strangers that you don't even know, let's say. So those qualities, right? That those qualities are what cause people to say, I want to donate, plasma to help out other people who don't have these uh, proteins or immune system elements, floating around in their bloodstream. And so they donate it, right? Well, then we're able to manufacture medicines by purifying the plasma into its elements. So here is what that looks like, for example. So this equipment is lots and lots of plasma from donors all over. And it comes together and it gets processed. And through a series of, I would say, filtrations and chromatography type things, I think what I could say is that in school, sometimes you find out what is in chlorophyll, or you find out what makes leaves of plants green. And you do this little experiment in grade school. I think I remember that. And you can see all the colors separating out when you do this. And so that's what's happening. You're taking plasma and by fractionation, and it's cold, you're able to take these different elements out of the plasma, and they're very pure. And so then they can be formed into medicines that are in IV bags, bottles of all sizes. So on the left, you can see those bags and bottles and tubing and everything. On the right, you can see this vial. And where I work, there's in one of the manufacturing locations, there's a sign there. It says that basically every vial has a patient's name on it. This is so precious, and it's made possible by the generosity of people who they don't know what it's like maybe to have a deficient immune system. They don't, but they can feel for others, right? So they decide to do this. So you have lots of people contributing to what is made possible by STEM activities. So there's this, and I wanted to also show in this slide another thing is that there are basically two ways that you can receive these components of the immune system in a pure form. You can have it by IV, which involves these IV bags and bottles. And usually when a person's receiving it by IV, they go to what's called an infusion center, and healthcare professionals hook up the IV and they give the infusion, and it can take a few hours depending on the person's tolerability. It can take quite a bit. And when they get this infusion, a lot of times when it's by IV, sometimes people can feel, the common symptoms are feeling like maybe a slight flu or getting a cold, aches, and just maybe headache, or just not feeling so great, sluggish, lethargic. So there's that as a side effect. But of course, this is naturally in plasma. And so it's definitely a needed treatment, but it does come with a burden, if you will, of time to go to the infusion center, time to get the infusion. And then there's the subcutaneous route, which is basically through the skin, just into the skin. And I'll show a little bit more about that later. What this allows is that with this equipment here, you can see various pumps that can be used, lots of needles, and tubing, you could actually infuse yourself, or someone in the home can do that at home or anywhere where you are. So there's been a lot of innovation to make available options for people, because there's no cure to, well, there is a bone marrow transplant that can give a person without an immune system an actual immune system. If there's a match found, there's that. In the meantime, it's a chronic condition where people can live a normal lifespan if they receive their medical regimen of infusions by IV or subcutaneous with bottles at home. So, but this also has its burden of treatment, because you have all this medical equipment in your house. At least here, you kind of go to the infusion center, everything's there. So some people feel that there's more of a burden to have all this medical equipment and carry it with them. Other people feel that, well, if I need it, I have it available with me and I feel safer. Other people say they don't really want to be reminded that they're ill, because as long as they take their medical regimen, they feel better, and they go for their infusions, and then they don't have to really think about it till time for the next infusion. At an infusion center, you usually can go less often, maybe once or twice a month. With self-infusion or infusion by a caregiver at home, it's oftentimes more frequent. But there have been innovations that even make home infusion less frequent, 3 to 4 weeks. So that's much less. And then with all of this, you have needle sticks, right? All of it involves needles of some sort. And people develop or already have a fear of needles. So you can see where there's a burden of treatment here, but the treatment is necessary. And there's been innovation, number one, to make the treatment available. So now we're going to go into problem number 2. I've stated the problem number 2 is that the treatment has things that make it uncomfortable. Okay, so the next slide, problem 2. Immune system is deficient and medical regimen for treatment is burdensome. So we need another innovation. So wanted to talk about the innovation of treatment just a little bit more. When you're injecting self-infusion, these are the areas where you can inject. And when you're talking about living a normal lifespan and having primary immunodeficiency disorder, we're talking about from infancy all the way up to the life expectancy, I think nowadays is 80, 81. So that's a long time to consider. Usually when you're injecting, into the skin, not IV, you don't have the feeling of flu and just tiredness and achy, but you can get redness and things like that, soreness around where the injection was, bruising like that, but it's localized, tends to be more. And then I wanted to show you again, burden of treatment. Here are all the steps it takes to do an injection, self-injection, or by a caregiver, but you can see this individual is doing their own in 7, 8, and 9 steps. And then they're also handling the pump here and 10 to get the volume in. And then they're documenting. So that's 12 steps that the person is doing on a regular basis for months and years and decades. So innovation 2, medications are available. They give people choices of when and how. And this is when, I want to talk to you about quality of life, right? So when you don't feel well, your quality of life is lower. You can't do the things that you want to do when you want to do them. You don't feel up to it. You are, just being made comfortable while you heal. If you have a cold or a flu, something like that. And then, you get nurturing from your loved ones. They come and they give you your favorite this or that in order to make it better, right? Because why? Because we want to have as good a quality of life as we can, no matter what. We want to have a feeling of well-being. So that's the same, for all of us. Generally, it's the same for all of us. So when people get a choice, right, of at least how they're going to receive their medicine by IV, subcutaneous, where they're going to receive it. Do they go to an infusion clinic? Some people, they will go to an infusion clinic and they like it. Why? They have friends there. They go at the same time, on the same days, and they get to know people. Or maybe before they get there, they get to do something that they like. They pass by, I don't know, for me, if it was a Lego store or something, I want to go in and look at the new Legos or something like that. Or if there's a nursery, and go and look at the flowers. So, or after, there's something that they do after. And so these are enjoyable activities that give a feeling of well-being and quality of life that we all deserve to have. So that's where the innovation too comes in, to make medications available that offer this flexibility to people where there's no cure right now, except for a bone marrow transplant, where you have to find a matching donor. But there's therapies that can help. And so in those therapies, how can we also ease the burden of those? So here's a guide here. This is from the Immune Deficiency Foundation as well. And I just borrowed this. So again, if you're interested more, please go to their website and take a look. So you can see that there's, what's the concern of the patient, and they can lead a higher quality of life if they have this tendency, frequency of dosing. Well, IgG level is kind of, what their body is presenting naturally. Access, if you live in a rural area, how easy is it to get to an infusion clinic? Needle sticks, time of infusion. Do you have people around that can help in the household? So this goes on, what are the different aspects to consider, and costs, what kind of, in the US medical insurance is a big deal. Okay, so I wanted to look at the effectiveness of the medical product innovation, knowing that companies have looked at this in general and said, well, we have some patient feedback. This is what the patients are saying that would make life better for them. And I wanted to know, okay, did it make life better? Health-related quality of life and well-being. So I used, courtesy of Immune Deficiency Foundation, Promise 29 survey data that came from querying the patients on the different therapies. And they were looking at parameters that I selected: health-related quality of life, the feeling that they can do things, that they're able to live life. And then also for well-being, I selected anxiety and depression, because being ill all the time can cause that, right? It just goes on for so long. So this medical products, what can help. And before I go a little bit further in that, I wanted to just say that, the problem statement is in this text here. I'm not going to read that. What I wanted to do is kind of like summarize the problems that are related to the burden of treatment: systemic and localized reactions, inconvenient travel to an infusion clinic and the wait time, the too often or too long of duration, or too many needle sticks. Just, it's painful, it's inconvenient, I don't feel great, I have anxiety, depression. These are the problems in general, but also with the burden of treatment involved in there. So the innovations have been different routes of infusion, of administration, whether you can do this at home or on the go, things that are room temperature and they're fine, so you don't have to worry about refrigerating them and worry about where I'm going to get a refrigerator. I want to go play soccer, but I need to do an infusion. I'm okay doing an infusion, but I got to keep everything cold. Well, now there's innovative products that you can have at room temperature, so that eases that burden. Okay, so then this survey data and other surveys too that look at health-related quality of life and well-being can be, we're innovated to measure these things. So then you've got the drug and device development process, right? You saw the needles and syringes and pumps. Those are medical devices that deliver those drugs. And then you've got patient-reported outcomes where people are asked, how do you feel? What do you think? What is your opinion? What is your perspective? How can I help, right? And then the person gets to say, doesn't it feel good when someone asks you those questions? So, but what are the disciplines involved in? Let me see, I can't see, so let me minimize some things. Okay, so look at all these professions that are involved here, right? I mean, marketers, so that's business, graphic designers, artists, content creators, right? Communication and public relations, salespersons, health economics, and outcomes, sociologists, psychologists. Yes, we do have STEM, traditional STEM, mathematicians, qualitative researchers that uses different types of math, non-parametric statistics. Of course, we have engineers, chemists, material scientists, and so forth. But look at how to make this innovation and to continuously improve on it to solve problems that evolve, right? Or are primary, and then they evolve into other problems that need solving. Look at all the team of people with their talents and skills and hobbies, right? They come into this. That's why I say embrace everything about who you are with your skills and talents and abilities and interests, things that give you joy, right? Along with your STEM work, because it's all needed to make life better. Okay, so now that I'm done with that, let's go to the next slide. So I was looking at things like that. The topic is medical products innovated with patient input and the resulting impact of health-related quality of life and well-being. I guess this was a question of, being in the medical products manufacturing, innovation, and manufacturing field. That's how I do my STEM. I wanted to say, okay, we've got this available. Did we listen to you correctly? Patient, caregivers, community, and did we get it right? And can we fine tune? So I was just interested, how does this make life better for you? Okay, so you probably have been asked to do a book review, or depending on what grade you're in, a literature review. Well, that is what's necessary in research. You're going to be doing this in your research as well. So I found some literature, and I just highlight these two here. So Jiang and others noted factors that improve health-related quality of life and well-being for patients that have primary immunodeficiency disorders. And they said, they found that treatment comfort and shorter treatment duration and flexibility and convenience are important when they did their research. And then Espanol and others, they measured patient-reported outcomes associated with that current treatment. And they, compared basically the IV versus the subcutaneous routes. And they found that, 83% preferred the sub-Q versus the IV in their study. Okay, so all of this informs, okay, how am I going to develop my study? So using this Promise 29 survey, I was looking for health-related quality of life, and I was looking for well-being. And I had them reversed earlier. So health-related quality of life was, I would expect to see low levels of anxiety and low levels of depression if that patient was optimized to what they prefer. And then, or I would expect to see no difference if all the patients were already optimized. And then well-being is the ability to perform social roles and activities. So getting out there and being in public and doing things, hobbies, and going to school and going to work. Untreated immunodeficiency means a lot of missed days of school and a lot of missed days of work. And all of that ties into ability to care for a family, because if children don't get a primary education, it's harder to make a living to support a future family. So that's why it's so important, to make it possible as much as we can, optimize people's ability to perform their social roles and their activities. So I asked the question, what's the difference in the well-being and health-related quality of life, or in patients who received 1 to 8 needle sticks every 3 to 4 weeks versus those who received more every 3 to 4, more than 8. And then I was looking at, is there a difference in well-being or health-related quality of life in patients who reported using medical products that were innovated for shorter infusion times, so maybe only 1 to 4 hours, versus those that were not innovated, thinking about infusion time per se. So it could take much more than 4 hours to do an infusion. So then I had a hypothesis, right? So you will too when you do your research. And I believe students begin research projects even before completing high school. So somewhere along the line, before you're in 12th grade, you will do this kind of research, and you'll have to make your null hypothesis and your alternative hypothesis. So one of the things that in research you want to do as well, now I was doing more social science, public health type research, but it's always good to use a theoretical framework that helps you to understand whether things should, go up or down. So you hypothesize, well, if I give something that's supposed to clear congestion, then, and so in purely scientific terms, I can measure the degree to which the sinuses were clear or not. So there are variables, right? And there's a theoretical framework that forms those variables, what should happen. Well, in more social science, I'm using survey data. So I'm using a biopsychosocial model to try to understand, well, what should happen if you do this or ask this, what should happen, or what should you expect to get out of it? So a lot of times it's easier to visualize, right? A picture is worth 1,000 words. So you have what's called a logic model. How does the logic of the theory work? And I think you will get that too before you graduate high school, which is cool, because if you like to create schematics, this will probably be really easy. Or if you like deductive and inductive logic, right? You would really enjoy this as well. And when you write computer programs, I think really you're using this kind of logic. But this is the way I present it. So I don't want to go into, all the details of it, but just to show that this is something that you probably will be exposed to before you graduate high school, at least hear the terminology. So my research, though it was in the social sciences, if you will, more on that side, using survey data, I couldn't have a control, right? I used actual patients, not as a control using non-patients. So but I was doing a quantitative research study within that. I used statistics that could be suited for this type of quantitative research study. And I had a cross-sectional research design. So you'll be asked that too when you're doing a research project in school. So I located Immune Deficiency Foundation, who was willing to help me. I went through what's called Investigational Review Board, and I had to take training on doing research involving people. So I don't know that you get into this level of detail in high school, right? But when you go on, you will be exposed to those things. So now you heard about it here. I had 121 participants with my particular query. Immune Deficiency Foundation allowed me to enter a query into what they called USIDNet, and I was able to get the query results from Immune Deficiency Foundation. Here are some examples of data that I wanted to pull, looking, of course, at gender, race. I think these days, right, we have more respect for what is considered gender. And so I think that there would be more than 2 categories here, moving into the future. And then, the different categories of race, the route of administration, and how people felt their level of disability was. And there were criteria around that that were also measured by a survey. So I used statistical tests, and some of them were a test for normal distribution. We showed that bell-shaped curve, and I was looking for that. But actually, if that curve is skewed, if it's not normal, there are statistics for when your data are not evenly distributed according to the normal distribution. So non-parametric statistics can be used in certain cases. In every case, statistics have assumptions associated with them. So if you really like math and you really like you really like statistics, to know, okay, 9 out of 10 dentists preferred this toothpaste. If that intrigues you, you will be fascinated by the kind of statistics that you can do to look at data that you collect. And I, recommend highly that you look through all of them, because it's so fascinating to see what you can do with your data, but what assumptions you need to make and convey so that it's as accurate and without bias as possible. Anyway, I use these types of statistics. And I found that there was no statistically significant difference for my research questions. So does that mean that everybody felt comfortable with their treatment? Unless I asked them, I will not know that. But I wanted to see anyways if I would find out whether there was still some discomfort in terms of the innovations that are available to patients, and with the idea that it would optimize the quality of life and feeling of well-being of these patients. So I just know that from the data set that I had at that time, that individuals were equally able to participate in social roles and activities. They had a level of anxiety or depression that was pretty equal. And then they seemed to be, right? That there was really no difference in what they were using. So maybe they were optimized on that. And certainly there's an ongoing dialogue between the patient and their physician to continue to optimize that information. So maybe the next survey would show something like that, or the next product that's innovated and put on the market will be from findings that individuals, researchers, academic researchers, industry researchers do to make that next innovation. So again, how do these findings relate to literature? It's been mixed in the literature anyway. Some researchers find a difference and some don't. In my case, as a researcher with the data set that I used, I didn't. But we do research for a reason, right? How do we promote? In my case, I was looking at social change. So what this says is the importance of finding medications that take care of the root problem. The immune system is not there, or it's there, it's not working well. So how do we optimize that so the person can actually live and then have a normal immune system by all the laboratory measurements? But then we want to also think about, how does the person live? What is their quality of life once they're on the medical treatment? How do we optimize that? Because as human beings, we have our bodies that function in physiology, and we have our minds and hearts that function to enjoy life. So that's important. And that's a positive change, social change that we can make, that whatever we do in STEM, we are thinking about sort of this holistic view of how does it make life better physically, physiologically, and how does it make life better for the existence of people going through their life. And that's it. Does anybody have questions? Maybe they're in the chat as well. So let's see, chat. See if I could. Doesn't the bone marrow make blood? Yes, it does. It makes blood cells, that's right. And let's see.
Excuse me.
Yes,
I have a question.
yes.
So I'm really interested in microbiology and like how cells, and I really like the diluting process. So I wonder if I can, because I have a friend who's also a microbiologist, and I am wondering if I can like start earlier at this age so I could like progress in the future.
I think it's never quite too early to start. I think that, as far as literal employment, I think in some cases, companies or universities might require age 18. In other cases, age 16. But as far as I know, when I was younger than age 16, I was able to volunteer in hospitals because I was interested actually in being a medical doctor. I did not become a medical doctor, but I've always been interested in medicine. So I would say if your friend can sort of take you under their wing and show you and guide you, um, that's great. I like it that you have that initiative already. That's wonderful.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Oh, thank
I
you for
had
the
a question
question.
as well.
Yes.
For microbiology generally, are there any places just like generally around the Agora or like Ventura County area that has like um shadowing for microbiology?
That I am not sure.
Or like
I'm
any
sorry.
opportunities for like lab or like internships for that? Because I'm wondering about that.
Yes. So, for example, the companies that bring in interns, usually they're requiring age 18 and older. But for younger, I think it's really case by case. So I think looking for, the labs that are around, for example, maybe even the, what do you call it? They're like acute care clinics around, maybe asking, in there, who does your test samples, right? Because they're handling test results and they get delivered, or specimens get sent out to laboratories for testing. So maybe they can suggest some of the laboratories that do testing, and you can contact them. And usually schools have a career counselor, and maybe they know specifically in Agora some of the laboratories that allow students to come in and shadow. Because I know that there are tours that are given to students. I just don't know all the particulars. So I'm sorry to say about that. But I'm hoping that either a guidance counselor in school or, with parents, just finding out any of the laboratories and see if they will host a tour so you can shadow and see what goes on.
All right, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Um, how big is this industry?
I would say it's huge. It's just the number of medicines, and all of those medicines have a manufacturer, and then all the things that feed into it. So it's from making the medicine, you have to get all the ingredients. So there's companies that are involved with manufacturing those ingredients. You saw all that shiny equipment. There are manufacturers that make that equipment. There are mechanics that service that equipment. There are people who are involved in metrology who make sure that that equipment is calibrated. So it's a big industry when you consider how much feeds into it. And then, of course, you have the scientists. The company that I work for employs 50,000 people. Other companies are similar in size. You know, some of them are small, some of them are even startups, but I think it's a big industry.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
How to improve the immunity system?
How do you improve the immunity?
Yeah.
Yes, so if you have already a normally functioning immune system, it's a matter of what they say about, you know, eat nutritious foods, wholesome foods, or whole foods, they call it. Try to stay away from as many of the sort of more refined foods or the delicious snacks and like cakes, Twinkies, or I don't want to, you know, make a bad light of Twinkie, but what I mean is like sort of the sugary snacks and have instead, if you're going to eat something sweet, eat it as a whole fruit, because the fiber in the fruit, as theory goes, makes the sugar in the fruit absorb properly or be digestible in a way that is healthy. So doing that, getting rest, sleeping is important. Having good quality sleep, because that's when your body nourishes itself. When you're sleeping, repairs things, and that keeps the immune system healthy. When you have already a healthy immune system, it keeps it healthy. When there's an immune deficiency, then medications along with being careful. So with the COVID, we talked about, or we heard about, you know, people who are immune compromised, really being careful. So taking the extra precaution, but we can also help with that too. So we were asked, wear a mask for the sake of those who are immune compromised, to help them to stay strong, because they already have a deficiency, which they're probably taking medications for that helps. But everything helps: sleep, nutrition, as well as in an immune compromised person, helping to keep them away from germs and infection by, when we don't feel well, stay home. And just being careful when, especially when asked, when there's a pandemic situation. So yes, I think hopefully that answered the question.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, it's 10, and I just wanted to say thank you so much, Dr. Niedre, for coming and spending your time with us. I'm sure there's still a lot of unanswered questions, and hopefully you'll have the time to answer them. Maybe another visit to our program. And I found the talk very interesting, so thank you so much.
Thank you. I really appreciate all of your time on a Saturday, students, everybody who joined today. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Students leave, I have a little message for you guys. We also have another exciting Triangular Talks coming up with some people from Ford or Jeep. Either way, you guys should all attend. It'll be great. And Dr. Niedre, you're also welcome to join. Anyways, have a great weekend, everyone. It's a 3-day weekend. gomasterco.org or comment below and we'll reply back. Maybe. And if you want to see practice things or anything about us, you can visit our website, which is basically the end of the email but without the info and the end. So bye!